I was preparing for him to do a kind of climax and stem winder, and he didn't let us down.
Well, it was quite a moment, and I appreciate you coming in and joining us. Thanks very much.
Well, thank you. This is, for some people, this moment, represents esteem. Others, it represents, I'm convinced, redemption. We feel we've crossed a certain Rubicon in the race. Many white people feel better about themselves and America. Many blacks feel reached out to, maybe for the first time. And so now black, whites, and brown maybe can move more definitively from racial battleground to economic common ground, where we're really hurting, to moral higher ground. And perhaps President Barack is just a conduit to help us make that transition.
I'm curious, you ran, as George mentioned, twice for president, and you had some success when you did so. But in your heart of hearts, did you ever think you would see this day in your lifetime?
Well, I did think it. It was just a matter of time. Didn't know who, didn't know when, but it was clear. The first time we ran was like experimenting being on that stage. People saw it and began to remove certain fears. And by 88, we did win Michigan. We did win Vermont. We got 1,230 delegates with $17 million. We went into New York in the lead. So things were beginning to happen at that time, but not to the conclusion that it has reached today. But it was a part of a process from the Voting Rights Act to testing its limits to today. And when I looked at President Barack in Mississippi campaigning, and whites voting for President Barack in Mississippi, and men voting for Hillary Clinton in Mississippi, it was clear they had become the conduits to which a new transformation was taking place right before our eyes. Americans are feeling, when LSU plays Alabama, it's about, gold and purple and red and white, not black and white. Just to see these big bowl games where we're caught up in region, not in race, in reason, not in fear. The athletic arena has played a big role in shaping a new kind of cultural data dynamic of choosing coaches, managers, ball players. Just as Joe Louis and Jackie Roberts and those guys played a big role, even today's athletics, Charlie, it's a big factor in how we become more acculturated.
But as somebody said to me the other day, it is extraordinary that the African-American hero today is not wearing a uniform and he's not holding a microphone. He is taking the oath of office as President of the United States.
That's the big journey for America, for which we should all be proud and feel better about ourselves and our nation. I just wish, again, the martyrs, people like Dr. King, Medgar Evers, should just peeping on it, because these are seeds that they sowed and now they're bearing fruit, and we all feel redeemed and revived for it all.
There were 1 million people testament, more than 1 million people on the Mall testament to exactly that.
They have a political hero. Maybe not since Kennedy we had a kind of political charismatic hero. I mean, he played that opening at Reagan in another kind of way, but President Barack Obama drew a bigger crowd, a bigger similar event, a more diverse crowd, and a kind of new America. I was not long ago in France and Britain, and people around that part of the world who I think had hit a trust deficit with President Bush are not willing to trust him to work with him on the Iraq, Iran, Afghanistan question. Right now, his greatest strength is he has this surplus of trust, and if he uses that capital wisely and well early on, we're going to see some changes, I think, in the short order.
Jesse Jackson. Yeah, sure. You were going to thank him too?
I was going to thank you too. And I was just going to say, looking up, of course, talk about arcs of history. This is a ceremony, the parade, that harkens back to George Washington going to New York from Mount Vernon with the militias accompanying him.
We'll give you a map here of the route that the motorcade will follow, leaving the Capitol, the east front of the Capitol. They go over and up Constitution Avenue. Then Constitution takes a slight jog, then heads up Pennsylvania Avenue at lightning warp speed there, as you can see. Turns left briefly, then onto 15th Street, back onto Pennsylvania Avenue, which jogs there just in front of the Treasury building.
George Washington wasn't in that Cadillac, though.
No, he wasn't. No, he wasn't. He was in New York, taking the oath of office there. Jesse Jackson, thanks again. Appreciate it. All the best. is a press truck that precedes the president's limousine, and that camera that you're looking at there is on that press truck. Martha Raddatz has reported in that she has a source saying that Senator Edward Kennedy is stable, that because of his brain cancer and treatment, quote, these things happened, but that he is stable and in good shape.
Looking behind us here, Charlie, we can see the front edge of the procession coming.
Chris Dodd, also, who walked out to the ambulance with Senator Kennedy, says he's fine. He was talking all the way out to the ambulance. He is just exhausted. That information, obviously, the same as we heard from Senator Kerry, that just the activities of the day and the stress of the day, the length of the day, the cold of the day, tired him out and brought about this seizure. But yeah, we've got a nice vantage point here as the vanguard of this procession heads up Pennsylvania Avenue. Turning now, the first police motorcycles have just turned onto Pennsylvania Avenue. I'm always impressed that the police can go that slowly on those motorcycles that are so big.
Again, the parade is expected to take, what, 2 hours?
Oh, it'll be longer.
It'll be longer.
Well, they schedule it for 2, it takes 3.
No matter how much the president's plead for shorter parades, I remember Eisenhower saying those last 2 elephants didn't cross the finish line until so late.
In the Eisenhower parade, the Mormon Tabernacle Choir was the last thing, and it was in deep darkness that the choir finally got to the presidential reviewing stand.
And while the president is heading up to the White House, the Senate is getting to work. They're about to confirm 6 of his cabinet appointees: Stephen Chu at Energy, Arnie Duncan at Education, Jen Antipalo, the Secretary of Homeland Security, Peter Orszag at the Office of Management and Budget, Senator Salazar for Interior Secretary, General Shinseki for Veterans, and former Governor Vilsack at Agriculture. All will be confirmed very shortly.
I'm actually struck they have shut down Pennsylvania Avenue to the crowds because the crowds had swelled so, but there's not, it's 7 or 8 deep here along Pennsylvania Avenue. Police lining foot of the street here.
I wonder if the cold and the lateness of the day didn't have something to do with this, because it was more crowded earlier. I believe they have more than 100 events in this procession, which tops the last record, which was in the 90s.
Jake Tapper, who was up on the podium at the Capitol, is now on that press truck that is preceding the president's limousine. And Jake, I hope you can hear us, and I suspect we can hear you.
Are you talking to me, Charlie?
I am, Jake. You're on.
Okay, I'm sorry. I'm having IFB problems. You can see right now that the motorcade has actually begun. It's pulled out from the Capitol, and we're driving here up Constitution. Some of the big Senate buildings are behind us. The people have been standing out here. It's mind-numbingly cold. A couple dozen motorcycles were lined up. And the officers of Capitol Hill Police were just sitting there waiting for this moment to arrive. It finally did, and a couple of the motorcycles had died because it's so cold.